So Byron Shelton, you are up next, right?
That's what they say.
That's what they say. All right, we're on the same page. Well, awesome. We appreciate you being here. You are well versed in all these principles that we're talking about. We look forward to learning from you firsthand, being able to dive deep into the principles of holistic management. So where are you calling in from today, Byron?
Well, I'm here in central Colorado at home. If I wasn't here, I'm usually out in eastern Colorado at the Savory Institute Ranch where we run large herd of buffalo, but I'm home right now.
Okay. Well, very good. All right. Well, go ahead and take it away.
I appreciate the time, Jared. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm a fourth generation Colorado rancher. The only caveat there is the first generation moved here from Ohio. The second generation ranched it for 50 years. And the second, third generations lost the ranch. So I skipped a generation, and now I'm trying to, or spend my life trying to get back into agriculture, and then have. One of the big things that helped me was helping to realize what were the reasons the families lost the ranch back then. And it's not always clear; you don't know the whole story. But whatever they were or seemed to be, what do we need to do different? How do we not just keep people on the land, whether it's farming or ranching or large scale or small scale? But how do we get people also back on the land or first time ranchers and farmers, no matter what their age? With that background, I was teaching high school vocational agriculture and had quite a bit of experience ranching on cousins' ranches. And when I ran into Alan Savory. So you've talked earlier today, Jared, and Nicole did too, about having to change our thinking and be open to some new thoughts and not always thinking we know it all, but maybe we don't. Alan's thinking challenged me. He threw three things at me that were related to the environment that told us things we didn't even know about the environment and how it works, and therefore what results will be if we do different things. But then Alan said even he had experience over 60 years. This all started back in the 1950s and 60s when Alan, Roger's father, really started into this. What I'll cover today will dovetail a little bit with what Roger said and a little with what you said, Jared, and that's fine. In a half hour here, we hope you just get a smattering of something that Jared puts all this together and we all go away with a, boy, I want to pursue something out of the day. What Alan's ideas gave me was not only a better understanding of how the environment worked and what I'm doing when I manage it as a farmer or rancher, but it was not, Alan even says it was not successful until we realized what, how we had to look at the whole picture. So, I started at it from the land standpoint. I wanted to see land regenerate. I wanted to see that change like that one there. Or I wanted to understand why is that different on one side of the fence than the other? That's a man-made cause that cannot be a nature cause. And so holistic management really helped me understand some of that with some underlying principles related to the environment. But the thing that really didn't, until this part came together for Alan and for all the hundreds of practitioners on the land, ranchers and farmers he worked with, all until the middle 80s, was that it finally came together then. Everything is not the same. Some things are very complicated and some things are very complex. And whether we use those terms or some other terms, it's the concept here that really stuck out to me. If something is complex, or sorry, I'm going to start with complicated. If something's very complicated, at each decision point when you're trying to make a choice, there's really only a few options to make. And there's really only a couple of results that'll happen. It's going to be A or B. And these are really the hard sciences. We could refer to them that way. There were a linear reasoning process. A builds on B, builds on C, builds on D. It works really well. And we put a man on the moon with this. My computer is smarter than I am. The key here is linear reasoning is really good for things we make, but it is not good for things we manage. And what we manage is usually complex. Again, the word doesn't mean a whole lot. It's the concept here is there are multiple variables, and no matter what we do, there could be a whole variety of results because these are the soft sciences. And in these situations, we need to really have a reasoning process that can continually keep us looking at the whole picture from the money standpoint, the land standpoint, and the people standpoint. And if we think about it, managing the environment, managing finances, managing relationships between people, this is what we're asking people on the land to do. We've got to have a way to reason looking at the whole picture. Management cannot be done through linear reasoning. Now, research can, many things can be. Some of the steps we take in the actual planned grazing process are linear, but overall management cannot be linear. It's got to be holistic. It's got to look at that whole picture. And if you think about it, what we're asking land managers to do, it's not rocket science. It's harder. We've put a man on the moon, and yet we're living in our eroding watersheds and catchments, struggling, as Roger pointed out this morning, to salvage the soil we have left, start rebuilding it and stop degenerating it. Holistic management has a framework. It's management. How in the heck do we work through people, money, and land? So if we just start in the middle down here, we can think, oh, I've got to decide this action or that one, or do I buy these heifers? Do I sell this ranch? Do I buy a pickup? Do I hire this person? We get caught in this action piece where we've got to make choices. And this is not a linear framework from top to bottom. It's just helping us keep in mind a lot of things we have to keep in mind when we're managing complexity. So if we're having challenges here, sometimes we jump to the top and we say, are we really clear on who's at the table? This quote, whole under management, it's really saying the whole purpose of that is to say, do we have the right people at the table? Who are the decision makers? Even more importantly, sometimes who are not the decision makers that we're letting be in a certain case. And this can vary by decision. Are we really clear on the resources we have, the people, the money, the skills to draw on? Now, these decision makers here, are they really clear on their holistic context? And you've heard that term a few times today. It's not just a context, it's we all live and work and move in a context every day. But when we're really trying to manage with a team, players, a farm or a ranch, we've got to sit down and say, what are we about here? What is our purpose? What is the quality of life we want? And that does not mean specific actions like I want a Ford pickup or I want a Hereford cow. Those are actions to decide. Are we really about livestock production? Okay, that's what we're about. And then it gets clearer later to decide on the actions. What does that land look like? And what will it look like far into the future? Again, as Roger referred to earlier. We've got to have a real understanding of the ecosystem processes. Because if we're taking actions on these, there will be a result. And so we learn in holistic management to look at it through these four ecosystem processes. Are we capturing the sunlight? Are we helping build the plant and animal communities? Ranching, that's easy. Farming, it's the exact opposite. That's why farming can't truly be regenerative without livestock and cover crops. Are the water and mineral cycles working? So what helped me when I ran into holistic management was if I understand, and this is where it caught me, was these ecosystem processes and how to graze right, then I started making better choices and starting being more profitable. Another thing we learn is there's only so many tools we have to work with the land. There's 1,000 forms of technology. We can use fire. We can leave land alone and do nothing. Don't put animals on it, which is this other one over here. Don't do fire. Don't do technology. That's using the tool of rest. That's basically the modern definition of conservation. that works in some areas and not others. All of these are bracketed with probably the most powerful tools are human creativity and the money and labor. So as I'm sitting down here trying to decide between all the actions I want to take, if I'm getting stuck, if I go up in this framework somewhere, I get clarity. Maybe I don't understand how the tool I'm trying to use really will affect the ecosystem, or maybe I don't have the right people at the table, or really we're not clear on what we're here for. Those things can help give me direction. Now, as I move and decide to make an action, then I can check it. I can say, oh, if there's a real problem here, am I dealing with that problem? Am I really getting to the cause of the problem, or am I still stuck with, I'm treating symptoms, and that's a short-term answer. Might have to do it, but can't do it for very long. And you can read across all of those things. If I do this, will it cause a problem socially or biologically or financially? This marginal reaction, it makes me stop and think, all right, I really want to do that, but is that the first thing I should do versus some other action to get that biggest bang for the buck to move the farm or ranch where I want to go? Gross profit analysis, that's telling me which enterprises, as Jared referred to, are making me the money and which aren't. How to dovetail them together to know which ones to do. Is this time and energy I'm going to use? Is it coming from the proper source up in here in terms of my holistic context? Am I using it in the right way so that I can truly be sustainable? And we always have a gut feel. How do we feel about this? So this framework, which I'm just giving you a high level view of here, helps us then check a decision we may make, or help many times it makes us realize we're not even asking the right question. We need to reconsider a couple actions. There is a whole body of knowledge on these four topics here. All of Andre Voisin's timing, the whole thing that planned grazing is built on, and all the derivatives of holistic planned grazing that have come from Alan's work. Stock density and herd effect, animal impact. How does that affect the land? Cropping, burning. How do you manage population management of a species in wildlife and in your own herds? You've got tons of background to build on. Then holistic management, that is what we call the holism piece. It forces us to stop and sit back and say, okay, what do we do here? This is really difficult. Many times we just take the loudest person in the room, we go that way, or we just pick one and go. This really helps give guidance when we're managing complexity and gets us back to thinking in a holistic way at the whole picture. The last part of it is this circle down the bottom right. We don't just make a choice and then put it in the drawer and go away. We say, okay, we've made the choice. We monitor it and see if it's going the way we want. And if not, we're going to control it and get it back in line, whether it's financial or natural resource management wise. And if we can control it, great. If not, we're going to replan. So we stay in charge as best we can. We can't blame things on the market and the climate and the weather. We do the best we can to say we've got a plan and we're going to be able to work this and be able to adapt and change as we go. This bottom left part shows on this one page here, which just gives the highlights of everything. We have a holistic financial planning process, and I'm going to spend the other half of my time here covering a few key things related to the financial planning. Holistic planned grazing, which is probably what we're most known for, but that has to fit inside holistic management. Land planning or infrastructure planning for livestock when you're running a livestock or an animal operation. How do you think holistically when you develop policy? Huge one. We need huge progress there, don't we? In results and then in research too. So I did take the time to walk you through that. I question whether I should do that, but I said in the topic title, what is it? It is a framework to help you manage the whole picture, to manage holistically. And what the benefits of it, to help you make better choices, to stay in business, to live the quality of life you want, to create the land that will support that quality of life for you and everybody else. I do want to point out here briefly, that is backed up by key insights of brittleness, which you've heard mentioned today. You need to learn about the concept of regularity of moisture. Because if you do a tool like fire or grazing somewhere in the world, and you go to another part of the world and it has a different degree of regularity of moisture, you will get a different result. You've got to learn that and understand that, and it's a powerful tool. When you're managing animals, the relationships of predator prey and timing, all of Voisin's work out of France, are backing up the environmental knowledge to back up the concept of holism, which that framework we spent a lot of time on. I'm going to move into this financial planning and profitability part after setting the stage there a little bit about what holistic management was, or managing holistically. It's probably the most important thing you can do. It'd take you a week or two a year to get a financial plan together with your team, and maybe a half a day to a day every month to manage it. There is nothing more important. It's working on the business, as Jared alluded to. Accounting is looking back. It's telling you what happened. Financial planning is saying, okay, we're going to plan forward. But holistic financial planning ties it to a holistic context with a reasoning process to tie it to the environmental principles and what the people's desires are. Plan to profit. What enterprises do we do? Where do you spend first in each enterprise? And all expenses are not created equal. Let's hit each of these just briefly. And what I hope out of this is not to have you walk away saying, oh, I understand all of that. That's a little hard in 30 minutes. But I hope it triggers you to think and pursue and research more. So when we have time, I'll put something like this up and I'll ask people, well, tell me when you can figure out what's going on here. And usually I get to about here and maybe they'll start guessing at it. And when I get to here, they finally have it there. I'll just tell you what this is. I is income, E is expenses, P is profit, or if it's more of a family operation, it's it's money in the bank, savings. Most people think about their income first and then subtract their expenses and see what's left. I went to college with a couple of folks who said, I know my expenses are going to be this much, therefore I need a career that makes me a whole lot of income to cover it, but still profit was last. As Jared pointed out here, we plan our income first and then we plan our profit, and we subtract that, whether it's 2%, 5%, 10%, maybe at this point it's even more, less of a loss, just to get us just toward breaking even. But we plan what we're going to set aside, and then that caps our expenses. So if I have $100,000 of planned income and I want $10,000 profit, my expenses will be limited and capped at $90,000. That is the mindset we have to go into it. And the battle now to keep expenses at 90,000. If I don't do that, then I'm over here in the first column. Expenses always rise to income and there's no profit left. You have to pay yourself first. So here's a graphic of it. I plan my income first. When I'm usually doing things typically, then I plan my expenses and then I see if there's any profit left. No, we need to change that. We plan our income first. We set aside our profit, which should not include the salary for you as the manager. That should be an expense. And then we see what's left. That is probably one of the most powerful tools in being profitable. The second one, how do I compare my hay enterprise and my sheep enterprise and my garden enterprise? Gross profit analysis says take away all the costs except what you only have directly. So what will my grazing operation bring in? What will my hay operation bring in? Take away direct costs, and I compare these gross profits between one enterprise and another. And I learn which enterprises are making me the money. Now, that's only one of those context checks, but it's a pretty powerful one to help guide how do I fit that in then with what do I want to do? How do I dovetail these if I'm direct marketing or selling wholesale? All you need to remember right now is gross profits help you decide what enterprises to do to then cover all of your other costs. This is a really important one I knew nothing about before I found holistic management. Every one of those enterprises So if I back here, Pier 1, I've got two enterprises, grazing there, haying down here. Each of those enterprises and any of the others I have, we're taking sunlight. If I had my other slide here, it would show a sun here. We're capturing that sunlight and converting it into plants. We're taking those plants, converting it to a product, whether it's hay or meat, for example, and we're converting that to marketing. That becomes a solar dollar. You've heard that term today. A dollar generated from the land, from hopefully regenerating the land. Otherwise, it's not a true solar dollar. It's only a three-link chain. We use this term weak link. If marketing is my weakest link, any action I could take to capture sunlight better, like seeding, anything I could do to have convert to a better product, like a better bull, is subservient to and out of order if marketing is my weak link. One other example here. If I can't get sunlight converted because I'm not grazing right, doesn't matter if my product's perfect or my marketing's, as long as they're functioning, maybe I just need to take a planned grazing course to learn how to convert the sunlight to a product. But vice versa, conversely, let's say I have very good, I'm converting, the land can still be improved, but I'm converting sunlight enough to feed my current animal. But my animals are not a quality product. I need better breeding stock. And what I'm selling, I can get done well. Product conversion is my weak link. What in the heck would I be doing paying to take a planned grazing course first? It's out of order. It's not the weak link. And that's just an example of some of the things that holistic management helps us think through so we can be successful and profitable. Many times we're doing the right things, but too many of them in the wrong order. Financial weak link. I want to leave you with that one. So if we lack the ability to convert sunlight, that may be our weakest link. If that's fine for the animals we have right now, are the animals good enough or the hay product good enough? If those two are okay, but marketing's the worst, then that's where my time and money needs to go. And every year, the financial planning trains you on how to focus your money to know what to spend on first. Just like cash flow can run you out of business, spending on the wrong things in the wrong order will do the same thing. And I want to leave you with this one too. All expenses are not created equal. Some are truly inescapable. You can't do anything about them. So recognize that. But the key here is recognize there are very few of them. Yes, we need feed, but it's not inescapable for our animals. If we could get it cheaper or different, we could change or alter it in any way. This is forcing us to say there's very few things we can't affect. We also want to look for expenses every year that will generate more wealth. A financial weak link expense we just covered is one of those. And there's several others you learn about in holistic management. Most of our expenses maintain the business, not maintenance in the terms of fixing the tractor, but just the overall maintain the business. The key here is we really learn there's very few inescapables. We don't have many excuses. We always look for ones that will generate new income, and we always question the ones we've got. And those are some of the details that fit into what Roger covered at a high level this morning when he was saying how he laid out his planning. And holistic management did that. And it really helps. It really helped me, and I wouldn't be here. It involved if it hadn't seen it help so many people. So as far as the profitability side, the financial planning side, learning to truly plan for the profit, select what enterprises to do, where to spend on them first within the enterprise, how to be able to monitor that financial plan monthly, tying it back to your holistic context with the right decision makers. And if you're running livestock, how to coordinate that infrastructure, how to pay for it as you go. These were some pretty powerful things that helped me when I ran into holistic management. You also heard the concept today of solar dollars. Mineral dollars are pretty much wealth coming from oil, coal, gold, silver, natural gas. They're there and they're non-renewable. They kind of happen very slowly. We use all of these. There's nothing wrong with all of these. Paper dollars, nothing backs them anymore. They don't accept our belief and faith and the confidence. And the more we print, the more inflation goes up. The only true dollar, and you all are so involved in it, is that can sustain civilization, as Alan Savory would say, is a solar dollar, is a dollar generated from the sun through the photosynthetic process on regenerating soils. And that's what you have to offer the world. It's so powerful. So I've left you with several topics there in a brief time, but it is all about managing the whole situation. And that's what's so hard because it is complex. It's not just complicated. It goes beyond that. And so managing holistically with some of these ecological principles and this holism idea, which many people talked about through the decades and centuries, but Alan Savory got it from Jan Smuts from South Africa. It gives us that idea of where are we heading and do we know how to get there? And as we go, how do we know we'll be able to stay on track and stay toward where we're going? So with that, Jared, I'll leave it. There's some contact information, and I hope I just added, as other speakers have, to whet your appetite today to realize there is some results. There is solutions out there. So I
That is
thank
so,
you for your time.
yeah, we thank you for being part of this. That is a wonderful overview of the holistic financial planning model. One of the pushbacks that I get is that that model can be so cumbersome and can be so hard. Isn't there an easier way? What would you say to that, Byron?
Yeah, and that's one reason I did put it up there, even though I questioned it. All it's really about is do you have the right people at the table and do they know what they want without it being specific actions, but the real values? And then any actions I take, how will that action affect that ecosystem in the area I live based on the principles of brittleness? And then these are some things I need to check through as I make this choice. These are those context checks, and many of them are intuitive to all of us in life. But until they really become that way, or as a team thinks through it, sometimes we need to have that cheat sheet. And then, okay, the choice is made. How are we going to follow up and make sure this happens? Like the financial plan, you don't do it and put it in the drawer and check it at the end of the year and see if you made money. That's the best way to be the most risky you can be. So keep the framework simple. It's like anything, terminology gets in the way. You know the purpose of it and the concepts behind them. But the real key is we've got to learn to manage the whole picture because we're managing things that are complex, not just complicated.
Yeah, good,
And
good.
we,
Well,
we make things well. We're excellent at making things. We are not good at managing things.
yeah. Well, very cool. Well, we appreciate that. Can you talk a little bit about what your gifts are on the thank you page? Again, thank you, Margot, for posting those.
Oh, you bet. I think we just gave
Hmm.
a discount on uh, choice, I think, of our online courses there,
Awesome.
which really deal with the foundations of holistic management.
Okay. Yep. So she's got the code there, Prof Regen Summit 20. So just go to the picture, click on the link below, Byron. That'll take you right to that page. So very cool. Byron,
You betcha.
thanks. We're grateful that you've been able to join us.
Thanks,
So we're
Jared.
gonna